Yo, what's up, good people? It's the Phantom Geek Zone. We're back again with another dope review for y'all. As usual, I'm Izzy,
I'm Riyaal.
and this time around, we're going to be continuing with our DCEU recap series, and we're going to be chopping up Shazam 1.
Chopping it up.
Yeah.
Clearly, you came to fight.
Yeah, man, this is. Oof. DCEU, man, obviously we know it's controversial. It's it was all over the place. It was a mixed bag, both
Yeah.
both behind and in front of the scenes, all of that stuff, to the point where it even messes with my flow, man. When I do the intros and stuff, because MCU, with all its problems, I'm usually nice with it on the ball. Oh yeah, I know when this one dropped. I remember where I was and what I was wearing and all these lovely things. And then DC was like, what is the background of the song? And it was, but I suppose, hey, man, it keeps you on my toes, if nothing else. But yeah, we can just get right to it, man.
Yeah.
Shazam. So, as per usual, what I want to know, do you recall what you thought when you initially watched it, and then how has that changed upon this recap?
I guess basically what you're saying, I didn't really recall much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the main thing I remembered at the time was, oh, it's Chuck.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Like,
Yeah.
Levi. It's just nice to see him get his flowers a little bit, Been watching Chuck since I was a kid. So
Okay.
it's a nice.
Before you went bad crab crazy, of course, but we'll get to that.
I feel like I saw this on a podcast once.
Yeah, all over the place,
Yeah.
basically. But yeah.
Yeah, so it was nice to see him kind of like coming back, getting a prominent role,
Yeah.
and doing probably what he does best, the goofball type role, which
Yes,
is
yes,
kind of
yes.
his. So yeah, I mean, in that sense, at the time, it seemed like a good casting. Still
Mhm.
seems like a good casting if this is the direction they were going for.
Mm-hmm.
Watching it now, I was just like, I think it's on the Aquaman level. It's just, it's a DC movie, but there's not much to it in the sense that there's nothing really like terrible with it, but there's
Yeah.
nothing
Not particularly memorable.
outstanding as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of my feeling now, and
Okay.
it probably would have been pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny enough, for me, it flipped around. Again, sadly, I can't share anecdotes of
Where you were.
yeah, sequencing,
I
all those
felt-
lovely things. But I remember generally, this is one of the later movies. Yeah, I almost want to say 2018. Yeah.
I'll say that.
And of course, I mean, we go as far back as 2013 for the beginning. And it's also, if memory serves, not the first, but like the hardest tonal shift we
Yeah.
hit. Because remember, DC was like dark, broody, and
And
whatnot.
this is a complete 180.
Complete. Then it was the first thing. Because Iron Man. No.
Wonder Woman?
Nope. Aquaman is what I'm trying to say. Aquaman is 2019. So Aquaman came afterwards. The point being, Aquaman and Shazam was when it started getting a little brighter in the DC universe,
Literally.
Yeah, so I think, with this one, would then be the first, and of course, the hardest, the sharpest right, rather, that they hit. With all of that, I remember going in on some, I don't know, let's see. And upon watching it, I was pleasantly surprised,
Yeah.
with the product. I was like, oh damn, okay, it was cute, it's fun, all of that stuff. And then fast forward to today, modern times, where I watch it again and I'm like, nah, man, this ain't it. If you know, I pull the chandelier. I was like, nah, that ain't it, man. I mean, we could speculate, about what could have changed, why that happened, because obviously it's the very same movie. The most basic explanation there is, of course, the standards have gone a bit higher over time with the flood of superhero movies that we've watched. But as you would have noticed in our other DCEU reviews, we actually enjoyed them quite a bit.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I think the darker set, definitely most of
Yeah,
them.
but even with virtually each and every single outing, here and there, of course, not quite as much. But the point is, we didn't hate it as much as
we thought
so many of the critics hated as well.
And even as we initially thought.
Yeah, or sometimes how we initially thought upon the first viewing of certain movies. We basically come out the other end on some man, these guys were doing quite a decent job. So I think that then created an expectation of a certain level when it comes to whatever other DCEU movies we're going to be watching. So that's kind of the summation of why I felt more disappointed this time than before. And look, don't get it twisted. I'm as goofy as they come. I like a good fun time movie, all that sort of stuff. But I don't do any inherent whatever. For me, being goofy doesn't inherently mean I'm gonna enjoy it. There's a lot of layers and depth that I'm still looking for, and we've seen plenty of examples that you can balance all those things. So that's how I came out of it feeling. Then just in terms of the specifics, I'll just get right. I'll get right to it, man. One, surprise, the pacing. I recall this movie was about 2 hours long, and then I remember getting to like the halfway mark, and I'm like, there's hardly anything that's happened here, because let's say maybe 30-ish minutes in is maybe when he gets his powers, and of course you gotta have your moments, especially for a goofy kid. I mean, look, he is
he's still figuring it out
or whatever. So him figuring it out is not the same as a grown ass man figuring out their powers. Fine, I gave it some grace, and what actually helped as far as to argue their case, they acknowledged this because the kid with the Freddy, thank you.
I think it's Freddy.
But his foster brother at one point says to him, look man, you've had these powers all along and all you're doing is being silly and whatever. So I was like, oh damn, okay, you guys acknowledged it. Okay, that means it's a part of the story and the character arc, basically. So it's not just a poor timing thing. You want to emphasize that
he's still a kid.
He's still a child. He's gonna screw around quite a bit. I mean, hell, who knows? Even at this age, what I would do if I were to get, bulletproof powers and super speed and all of that, right? I was like, fine. But that being said, there needs to be a turnaround point where we then get down to brass tacks, especially because you have an actual villain in this particular movie. If they decide to go in a different direction, maybe it's more about the philosophy and whatever, fine. But now there's a proper bad guy that's trying to mess things around and actually kill you. Usually or sometimes the bad guys just out there causing destruction and you go and stop him. But this guy is targeting you specifically. So at some point it's like, okay, let's turn it up a notch and deal with that. And that's where the disappointment lies, if anything, because even after we've gone past that, okay, you're a kid now, whatever, now face up to these responsibilities, I don't feel like it quite lived up. I don't know from your side in terms of how the overall story flowed, if you feel any different.
Not particularly.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with you there. Like, it was nice towards the end where you did see the responsibility on your shoulders a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like you needed your family kidnapped, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But also I don't know, it's just a nice movie to watch. I don't know if there's any more depth to it, and I'm not sure if this was because of the times now, because we're coming off. They took a few knockout blows from MCU, and then they wanted to do the MCU model and then completely changed it. Because for one, as you said, it is a lighter toned movie. There's lots of jokes and silliness, but also just the movie was light. Yeah. Lots of vibrant colors, lots of it wasn't that blue notes that are very broody and melodramatic. I don't know. It's not much to say for me.
Don't force it, dog. If that's it, then that's it. And I also want to re-emphasize, right? Granted, this was lighter tone, major shift, and all of that, but it does not inherently mean it's going to be a bad movie, which is where my bigger issues lie.
Maybe for me, maybe I didn't really relate because it's teenagers, And at the time it would have come out, past my teenage years at that point.
Yeah.
Still young,
It's the,
but
like, varsity,
just
yeah.
towards the end of varsity, and
Mhm.
you kind of past that,
Yeah, super kiddie, childish
super
sort of
kiddie,
things.
trying to figure out your way.
And I mean, even if we think of the other more childish stuff that we would enjoy, there's a nice balancing with
Yeah.
the adult side of things, and even if it's another character in the
Like,
story.
look at your Pixar movies, for instance.
Mhm.
They're very kid centric, but they've
The
got
themes.
they've got, and the themes are very adult focused.
Yes,
Adults can relate, but
Yeah.
also the jokes are also, there's a few.
something for
Yeah.
us, yeah.
And as an adult, you have to kind of listen to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then maybe that's maybe what they could have done here.
Mhm.
I mean, they so in certain instances.
Yeah, but not quite
not
enough.
full on,
you
yeah.
know. Yeah, so
Like when like just for like a little funny moment when they said, "Think of a place and get us out of here." Then he
Mhm.
went to the strip club.
yeah.
And then she's like, and then the little sister was like, "Why are you covering my eyes?" And then, I mean, that's funny, but
Yeah. It takes a little more than that,
Yeah.
to keep us interested.
I'll
long
laugh,
term, so-
but
Yeah,
you
but doesn't quite a good movie make.
doesn't come from here.
Yeah, you're not laughing with your heart.
Yeah.
So. No, I feel you on that one, man. I suppose something I didn't take into consideration, which you just reminded me of, the age factor could have come into play. Look, I wasn't a kid when I first watched this, but it was 7 years ago, actually, at this point. So no matter how old you were at one point, you age 7 years, your tastes are gonna, and standards are gonna shift quite a bit. So I think
We weren't paying rent then.
yeah, it's barely paying taxes, so yeah. Then as far as, of course, we gotta get to our big bad as well, Mark Strong. Yeah, man,
I love
great
Mark Strong,
actor and ish. Yeah, I don't know, man. Mark Strong,
He's really good at playing the straight man in certain movies.
Mhm. the villain as well.
Yeah, the villain as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. The Brothers Grimsby, if you remember that.
Man.
Playing the straight man there so well.
Talk about really really going against type, but in the best way possible. And my thing is to get a little into Mark Strong's backstory, because okay, I wouldn't go exactly as far as his first intro, whatever, but if memory serves, I think I first saw him in Sherlock Holmes 1. I mean, easily his best role to date, where he played
Yes.
the villain. I forgot his
Yeah,
name
yeah.
now, Doc something. And then Kick-Ass as well. He was in Kick-Ass, he was like the mob boss dude and whatnot. Christopher Mintz-Platz's dad in that movie. Again, brilliant, And then at some point he gets to Green Lantern. He played Sinestro.
Oh, is he Sinestro?
Mark,
Okay.
listen,
The
man,
CGI has to put me off, eh?
Mark Strong has been around.
Is it Kingsman he plays
Yes, yeah, but they, nice, good guy and all of that. But now my point with the whole Sinestro thing is that these are, the bad guys that he's played, which were dope, which is, in Kick-Ass and in Sherlock Holmes. And then, you get to Green Lantern and it was like, okay. And with that movie, if you know, as far as the reputation. And then this time around, he pops up in Shazam and it's like, Mark, what is going on?
Yeah.
Dog? What is going on?
I don't know, even just the villain itself, the motivation was just a bit...
That's why I'm asking Mark what the issue is, because, is it a matter of needing the check that bad? Or, I mean, an actor of your caliber, I can imagine some of the dopest scripts have to have been coming around. So there was a slight disappointment in him just taking the role to begin with. And then to your point, because
motivation was a bit
there
off.
wasn't much about the villain going. He was so straight-laced, almost kind of by the numbers type thing. Like, no, man. You could have put just about anyone in that role, and it's just is what it is.
His father didn't acknowledge him and blames him for losing his leg.
Man.
And then because he didn't believe you that you saw something.
That you said you were transported to a place where you saw a wizard who gave you an option of taking powers, and then who would believe any kid who has that story, So, I mean, look, props, I guess, one of the few that I have for the character as far as the whole thing of okay, trying to find other people, and because it speaks to them verifying whatever or verifying whatever you went through, and
it shows the psychotic nature.
Yeah, that I actually found
drive,
quite interesting because obviously he's also on a mission to get back to the place and whatnot. Cool, but I feel like everything else, as far as how he took the backlash and whatnot, it didn't really do much.
I feel like he was more of a backseat here because the focus was more on Billy and him figuring out his powers. Which I think they should have just went full on into it.
And I mean, we've done movie reviews where we speak about how they balanced having a lot of villains in one movie. These guys could barely do anything worthwhile with just one, you know. So I think and the whole thing on, and I've said this a couple of times before, man. Be very, very careful. And I think DC leads into this quite a bit. That whole mythical, fantastical element, and you know, it's not impossible. It's just very, very tricky to pull off, man. Because at the end of the day, we are mere mortals watching these movies. We still need something to, you know, relate to and connect with. And okay, you got your whole 7 deadly sins thing, but I mean, I don't recall one sin actually manifesting in terms of what it's based on, you know. You got your wrath, you know, your gluttony, your envy, and whatever.
But
I think
just
made a reference to
just more side pieces.
They made reference to the whole envy thing because that's what he had. But it's like, okay, fine, he showed he's got envy. The other sins never came to life in any real form except just being scary little demons. And again, then don't name him that. Just, you know.
Just demons.
Yeah, or spirits, or leave him nameless or whatever the hell. So yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot that for me just didn't connect. Although, look, it wasn't all bad, I'll give them that. The family dynamic on just about all levels for Billy's side. That was the heart and soul of the movie and the best element.
I mean the foster family just.
Dude, do you know that guy? I've seen him somewhere. I just can't recall where.
The dad.
Yeah.
He's also a very familiar face, but
he was like this nice, lovable dude and something else. And I kept thinking, you know, I couldn't place it, but okay.
And I don't know where he's from. Yeah, like everyone just. You saw Billy, like he doesn't feel wanted, and then just straight off the bat, everyone's like, "Hey, Billy, how's it going? How are you doing?" It's pretty nice to see like a positive foster environment. And just how he riffs with each one in the family, and you know, the mom being the worrisome one, the dad being the stern-ish one,
the cool one.
But it's also nice to just veer away from the trope of just your step siblings being dicks.
Yes.
So here it was like, everybody is welcoming and they want to be your brother or sister. So that was really nice. I do really like that. And just seeing the arc from Billy just wanting to run away from day one. And then him at the end, he's the one putting his hand in before they do supper. So it was nice to see the progression of him just coming to terms with his mommy issues. Because let's be honest, like the reason Billy is an orphan is his mom left him.
It doesn't get clear cut than that as far as
and that was a nice thing. They didn't shy away from that. Like say for instance with the Thor movie where they'd be humor in the next scene after. Here, Billy's looking for his biological mom, and then later in the movie, sometime he finds her, and she's like, "Hi, who are you?" And Billy, I was like, "Hey, how's it going? Whatever." And she's like, "Yeah, I left you. Nothing to do with you."
And they doubled down on top of that. I was like, damn.
And then the whole movie, Billy has this something compass, and he's like, "My mom gave me this. I can always find my way." And she looked at it and she was like, "What is that?" Like, you know, the thing you value most in the world. She doesn't even, it's not even in her frame of reference. So they went in with that. I really enjoyed that bit, and then I liked the realization on his face after that conversation with his mom. He's like, "I actually have a family. I need to go back now." So that I think that was nice. So thank you for mentioning family dynamics. As well, just completely because I would have completely glossed over it. So I don't know if you have more to add to that.
Like again, as I said, it was the heart and soul of the movie, and there's hardly any fault that I can put on them where that aspect was concerned. Because I mean, we speak about motivation all the time, but it's usually in relation to the antagonists.
Yeah.
But I think this time around, as far as our hero having his own little motivation and just showing what shaped and molded him
Yeah.
over the years, there's a lot of cliched elements that they could have gone with, and there's a lot of things they could have maybe glossed over, shied away from, but they just really stuck to their guns.
And it was the nice thing, like even from the offset when he didn't know his family, he's always standing up for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when those kids like knocked his brother,
Yeah,
and
he's like, no.
laid in a punch.
That's not what we do. Yeah, because I mean, it's the one thing he's always wanted more than anything in life.
As a family.
Number two, he knows how it feels like to be left out, to fend for yourself, quite literally. So he's like, nah, man, I can't then go around inflicting that on another person. So shout out to them. And as I said, even with the mom, the whole thing of just doubling down in terms of, dude, I was 17, what does I want to do with you? I felt like these guys will take, better responsibility. But she could have said, okay, you're here now, come through. She was like,
nah, but she was just like, no, I'm done.
I got my whole life. And so I'm like, damn, again, I know, dark and everything, but they went there.
Yeah.
Which is all I ever want. Because if it was, oh, my son, you came back.
It's like, what is the whole
come on, man. Exactly. So, it only furthered his journey. So that was pretty dope. Shout out Freddie, man. Like he was such a highlight in this movie. And I feel like more so than Billy himself. He was kind of like the heart of the movie in terms of being.
He was like Billy's conscience in a sense.
Thank you. I was looking for it. I almost said, Billy's heart, but conscience definitely places it
because he's the one who called out Billy and like, you're just playing around with your power.
Yes, he grounds him, he brings him back to reality, he reminds him who he is. Because just as he's making the family connection, he's then getting the powers, and then that's another thing that could easily, steer him clear of the family. And he's like, nah, man, you're with us. Come. I mean, that whole scene where he's like looking for a place to live. It's like one bedroom, and then Freddy goes 7 bedrooms. And because again, he's kind of getting into this. Yes, he was always alone. I suppose we need to acknowledge that, but he's kind of now immediately jumping into selfish mode where it's like, we still got our family to think of, and but Freddy was always the person bringing him back home. So the kid did an amazing job. Even just the acting of it, like as young as he is.
He played, in this sense, you could relate, because, or not even relate, you enjoyed that he was like a 14-year-old, being a 14-year-old, joking all the time.
And also just showing that, look, yes, Billy, you may have been abandoned and all of that, but you're not the only one with troubles in your life, I mean, he's out here getting his ass kicked every day in school by these dudes. He's like, hey man, you know how hard I fight every day so that people see me, that's why I'm out there, my personality. I don't want them to look at my disability and pity me and all of that. I was like, that was quite deep, man. That was quite deep. And
that was quite a scene.
I have to say, with this movie, which is not a common sentiment as far as movies that let you down. As I said, sometimes it's a matter of what were they even thinking? Whereas here, it's like it was right there.
And that's where I think they kind of fell short. They should have just lent into the whole family dynamic and made that movie.
Yeah, and I think a slight tweak, even in terms of how the villain was going about it. Yes, he did end up coming and trapping them at one point, but it felt so basic in terms of how he did it. They could have driven a lot more as far as, no man, this family that I've just gotten, you are now trying to take away from me, and then even the payoff of, the co-Shazam, whatever the hell you want to call it, and now we're coming together, that, would have meant so much more. But I didn't really feel as though the stakes were all that high.
Yeah, and I think they could have also paralleled Mark Strong's character and Billy, because they kind of started the same way. Abandonment issues, and it shows how you may be in the same path, but they took.
The thing is, they think they did the parallel.
Yeah.
But I think to your point, they could have done a much better job. Yeah. So again, it's one of those cases where these guys had all the ingredients they needed, and I absolutely do not know what it is that mess things up.
when Dr. Sylvain just came into the board meeting and just threw his brother out the window, I'm just like, yo,
Dude.
start with that from the beginning.
Exactly, you know.
Well, I guess he kind of did it with the doctor as well, with the symbols on the door. Like,
Yeah.
she just disintegrated. He's like, okay.
And then, you know, onto the next. But I think because obviously the family is in a whole other category where the grudge and the gripe is concerned, this guy with powers, maybe, don't focus so much on the speeches.
Maybe not the speeches, and they even made fun of the speech as well.
So that's the thing, like, cut in from the get-go, showing that, hey man, you're a force to be reckoned with and not to be, messed around with.
Yeah, maybe just change the motivation a bit from wanting the power to making sure he doesn't have what, you know what I mean, like, Billy has a family, I don't have a family.
Yeah, and then he must also, suffer, say, why is he better than me?
Yeah.
And, there's
Let's see if he's under the same circumstances, will he still be the chosen one?
Exactly. There's a good number of, psychological elements that they could have gone with instead. But they just chose, this is, CGI, superpower in a random mall, and people run around, and let's just go as generic as possible. So that for me was actually quite disappointing. And we touched on the payoff as far as the family coming together and all of that. What is your take on it? Given that obviously they're stepping in because Billy can't quite manage on his own as well.
It was a nice moment in the movie, but my gripe is Billy took so long to get used to his powers, and they're like 10 seconds in, running around, flying and punching things. And that was my gripe. I'm just like,
damn.
Okay.
I'm so accustomed to that happening with villains that it didn't even occur to me with these kids. But it's the exact same thing. Like, why all of a sudden, because for me, my downside was more along the lines of, is this the best way to go about it? Because it can also be seen as taking shine away from Billy. Instead of having that moment himself where he then overcomes and whatever. Now,
but I think he, in a sense, he did have his moment because he always felt like he needed to do stuff himself, and then he was like, actually. So maybe.
But I say based on, is it his movie or not? Also, it's Shazam, and look, even if they did do a sequel, then we'll get to it in due course. But maybe, look, as a teaser rather. Have Billy, they can be there, whether it's, chanting for him or that, the emotional support from the side. Come on, Billy, we believe in you, do it for us, or whatever the hell. He defeats them, right? It's the whole triumphant thing, and then, the love is filling his heart and motivating him, fine, he wins. And then afterwards, as you're figuring things out, just towards the end, or even as a post-credit or whatnot.
Yeah, post-credit.
Then, hey, Shazam has a team. What? And then, just show them trying to fly around, whatever, and then cut from there. And then, in the next movie, team up type of thing. I think something like that. Just look, man, we're talking about the hero's journey here. And again, it's a solo movie. It's his intro movie as well,
And he's not I know Shazam, but, he's not like a Batman or Superman, a well-known.
He wasn't up there in popularity.
Story.
Exactly. Take the time, establish this character, make us love him for him,
Because he has some really good villains.
And he's got some dope qualities to him as well. Like that whole, man-child element. As you mentioned, Zachary Levi, plays a
man-child very well.
So I think they could have done a bit more. But I don't know, with that said, I feel there were moments where the acting just felt a little, I don't know, man, maybe a bit corny, a bit cheesy.
His acting.
Yeah. Yes, you try to do the man-child thing, but it felt a little overly done.
Oh, okay.
And there were some moments I'm like, no, man, we've seen so many guys do it brilliantly. This is kind of stepping. Granted, the other guys are doing it as adults. He's trying to do it as a kid, and maybe, striking the balance was a bit of a challenge over there. Particularly because I think one other element in addition to that is that it almost felt as though it's a different character. And I don't know if that's how it's meant to be. Look, I know physically he becomes an old man, but there are sometimes where I'm like, this is not quite the same Billy. As opposed to being Billy, but with powers,
I get what you mean. I get it because, like, Billy is a little more broody.
Exactly.
Over, not he's chatty, but not as chatty as when he's Shazam. Yeah.
So again, I don't know, which also leads me to one of the other issues I had with the movie. Good old Digimon shout out. When he gave the guy the powers, I understand he was weakened and whatever, but it's like, okay, you got the powers, bye bye. No mentorship,
Nothing,
no
yeah.
guidance, no.
And it didn't even tell us why Billy was like even.
Why is he the worthy one?
Was he the only one, or was he like the only person you could find because you were dying?
I mean, he did say that, yo, find me anyone, but still, drive that point home.
But he said, should they be worthy?
So
how is Billy worthy?
Exactly. Yeah. They could have driven that point a little.
Show us why he's King Arthur.
A little, could have driven it home a little better. Let's see. Anything else besides that you
little nuggets here and there, like one of the names they were figuring out, Zapped in America, which is
okay.
Nice little call to the MCU there.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know if you know this, but who is it, man? Captain Marvel and Shazam
have the same name, yeah.
Yeah.
So they were both Captain Marvel, and then I think MCU or Marvel filed the trademark, so they got Captain Marvel. Then Shazam had to change. Or Captain Marvel, DC had to change to
Okay,
Shazam,
so I guess that's kind of where the jam came in, and then we of course got the Superman cameo, or shall I say the 3/4 Superman cameo, just chop homie's head out and then have him appear, and just had me like, why? Just don't have him in,
Or like, how did he even meet Superman now?
Actually, he just got his powers and oh my word, I didn't even think that far.
I brought another friend. I'm like, how did he become your friend?
Oh man, wow, yeah. So that was just a horrible choice. It wasn't even the same suit. That S was very wonky. It wasn't even the original suit, but anyway.
And then I think when the wizard was talking to him, it kind of mentioned the previous hero. And if you are aware of the law, Black Adam is that guy.
Yes.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see Black Adam as the next villain or the first villain.
But
we'll that is a different story.
Dwayne Johnson bundle that down the line. I think that's pretty much it. I'm actually kind of impressed. I didn't think there'd be this much to say because again, it's not our first rodeo as far as movies we didn't quite enjoy, and it's kind of hard to dig into the ins and outs of it if you aren't that motivated. But I'm glad we at least managed to squeeze this much. Out of
there's
the
definitely
movie.
things to say. It's just when a movie isn't terrible or great.
That middle doesn't quite cut it after a certain point. I absolutely agree with you there. So with all that said, what rating are you gonna give it?
I think 5.5 for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good with just a clean 5.
Okay.
Could easily do it. It could easily do without it, but with it more on some play in the background so I can just chat on my phone.
And that's the thing now. Like it's one of those types of movies where you got nothing better to do on a Friday. You'll watch it. You'll enjoy it. And
in the overall top 5, which is the next section that we tend to get to, I'm just gonna come out and say there's no way this is getting into the top 5.
So just to remind the people, what is our current top
because our top 5 is Man of Steel, the Snyder Cut Justice League, Batman vs Superman, Wonder Woman 1,
and Aquaman
1. So I mean, look.
I think that's gonna stay the same.
Get any tougher than that as far as the competition is concerned.
And I think Aquaman had a better backstory.
Oh man, without a doubt, better backstory, better acting, characters, action. I mean, everything you want in the movie was started out better than in this outing. But don't worry, there'll certainly be many other movies for us to delve into, breakdown and all of that. The DCEU isn't quite complete as yet.
I will do a full ranking, I'm sure, when we get to the end.
That'll actually be an interesting footnote to the end of this, because we are also closing off a chapter. We're getting ready to move over into the new DCU. But yeah, that's further down the line. Otherwise, that's pretty much it from our side. Hit us with the like, hit us with the subscribe, drop us a comment, follow us on Instagram to keep up with, where we're going to try to take this thing. And then, yeah, we'll catch y'all at the next review, man.
Yeah.
Cheers.